Welcome, children. So, the first trade of this week has set up in the Forex market GBP/USD, and I just shared this in my free Telegram channel. The link is in the description and the pinned comment, so you can join it. It's a free channel where I just call all my trades live. So, hey, check it out. GBP/USD. Price on the daily chart is at a major support resistance zone. So what I'm going to be doing is as soon as I finish up this here video, I'm going to place a trade. I'm going to call out the exact specifics in the next trades group here on Discord. And it's going to look something like this. I'll just give you guys a freebie here. I'm going to be entering here at this zone right here. So it'll be a sell with spreads, maybe a little bit like that. Maybe it'll look something like that, a little bit below. The stop will be above the zone, which honestly right there is perfectly fine. And the take profit will be down here at 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. This gives us plenty of room to manage the trade a little bit early if it starts to break above. So if we enter and then it starts to do something like this where we go above, I'll probably just be looking to close it if it breaks above for maybe a third to maybe 1/2 of what the stop loss distance is. On this trade, I am likely going to be risking around probably $75,000. There is an area just above where these previous wicks were that price could go a little bit further. So I'm just going to be watching based on what the context is to decide what to do, given what GBP/USD does. Right now, I'm waiting for price to reject a little bit first. That's always what I do before I enter. I say always, maybe like 90% of the time. I just wait for a little bit of a bounce first at these major support resistance zones. That way it gives us a little bit more information like, hey, price is starting to finally bounce away from the zone. So let's go ahead and see what happens. This account that I started at $350,000 back in October of last year now sits at around, what are we at? $797,000. That's not right. The account sits at $763,000 because I had a small loss on AUD/USD last week. I got to make roughly another $250K in profit to be able to get this account to the growth target. That's about anywhere from 2 to 3 really good trades where I make $100K or more on each. And even after swaps and fees and commissions, 2 to 3 trades is going to be more than enough to get us to the account growth target. That could happen this week. It could happen in a month. It could happen in 2 or 3 months. I don't care. The fact that I'm able to take a $350,000 deposit to $1 million in less than a year, that is phenomenal. And I'm okay with that regardless of how long it takes. We're currently in May of 2026. So I have until October of this year to get this account to $1 million. Then I'm going to withdraw $500,000. Pay $200,000 in capital gains tax, and I'll be left with $300K to go and give to my wife so that she can pay some more of the bill so that I can keep living here in my high-rise condo. So that is going to be GBP/USD. We're going to see what happens, and if she starts to bounce, then I'll be looking to enter. So the next one that we have currently possibly setting up is GBP/AUD. When we go out to the daily chart, price is almost to a daily resistance zone. Okay, so we recently bounced off this zone here earlier in the month of May. We came down all the way to the support level. I bought down here. This had a nice bounce. I made like $50,000 on this one. And if we continue up here into the resistance zone, I'll be looking to sell. What will the trade look like? Very, very simple. There's not a lot of work to do. We just sell. My stop loss is going to go somewhere above the zone, perhaps something like that. Take profit will just be set at a 1-to-1 to get started. If it goes into profit, I'll try to add to it if it wins and adjust the stops a little bit tighter. And if it goes against me, I'll be looking to try to get out at break even or a smaller loss than whatever the stop loss is. So we will see if GBP/AUD sets up this week. AUD CAD. She almost came into the zone that we were going to buy last week, but she barely missed it. So we were not able to get into a buy. That would have been a nice trade had it come all the way down here into the zone, but it didn't. So it is what it is. It's bounced. We'll see what happens. Currently, what I'm looking for is I think we're going to see a continuation up here into the resistance zone. I'm going to look to try to sell up there if we can get there into the resistance zone. When we go to the daily and weekly time frames, the last time price was right here, was in February of 2021. That is a good just over 5 years ago. However, I do think that for 2 reasons, we might have a nice bounce there. Number one, that'll just be a new higher high. Normally after a higher high, price has a little bounce anyway. You can see this all the time. When price goes up, makes a higher high, then we make highs and lows here, have a new high, we have a pullback, we have a new high, we have a pullback. And if we go up here and we make a new high somewhere up here that also aligns with the weekly resistance zone, we just might have a bounce. It's really just to sell at a weekly resistance zone. I'm going to take off that line there since we don't need it because price is up here. And yep, so we'll be looking to take this trade. We will see what happens. It's a nice big weekly major zone. And if price can get there, that would be awesome for some sells. AUD/USD, this is the trade that we bought last week. Price started to go against me, so I closed. I took a small loss below the zone. We ended up running above the zone, came all the way back to test, tried to go up again, came all the way back here, and now we're funneling up into this sort of wedge pattern. I don't know what's going to happen. It's 50-50. It could be either way. It could break up. It could break downwards. If it does, in fact, break to the downside and come back here to touch this support zone again, I might still be looking to buy because technically we're good. Price has bounced at the zone a couple times last week and it didn't break, didn't close below on the daily. If we could come back into here and have a little bit of rejection, I think it'd be perfectly reasonable to just get into some longs again with a stop loss below and a target above. So I'm going to keep my eyes on that as we go into this week. Euro GBP, one of my very favorites right here. I'm going to be actually moving it towards the top of my watch list because of how close it is to setting up. It is about to set up for the setup, and we're going to trade this setup if it sets up. So we're going to have to first wait to see if we get a set and an up right here. Because if we set down here, then it might go up right there. Great setup. Why is it a great setup? Why? Because price here on the daily chart has bounced multiple times at this support zone. Support, it doesn't give you a way of predicting where price is going to go, but it does give you a way of controlling risk. That is why I just trade support resistance zones. Gives you a way of saying I can enter right here. I can put a stop loss on the other side of that zone that I enter, and then I can set my profit target at, really wherever you want. I just use 1-to-1 risk reward ratios, and if it goes against me, I try to get out a little early, and if it goes into profit, I try to hold it all the way to the profit target. I only have about a 50% win rate, but the fact that I happen to make more whenever I happen to be right means that whenever I lose trades, I lose a little bit less when I happen to be wrong. And because I make a little more when I'm right and I lose a little bit less when I'm wrong, and I'm only right half the time, that means I'm profitable. It's very, very simple. It's like running a business. You got your revenue, which is all your winning trades, and you've got all your expenses to the business, which is all your losing trades. And you make a profit if your revenue exceeds the total expenses. And I just try to make a little bit more whenever I win versus what I lose when I'm wrong. And that has worked very well for me for the past decade that I've been trading. So that is Euro GBP. The rest of these here, CHF JPY, I'm actually going to move this further up on my watch list as well. I think this is a pretty nice setup. There's a couple places we could bounce here, including this major resistance right there. Here's how I'm going to approach this since we've got multiple resistance zones around this region. Okay, pay attention. When we go to the weekly chart, yes, price could bounce right here where I've currently got my alert in this resistance zone. However, we do have price push a little bit above this zone multiple times in the past, and then this last wick above this zone spiked up to there. So what I'm going to be doing to structure the risk on this trade is if we get into this zone, I will enter a sell right here at this resistance zone, and the trade might look something like this, right? So sell right there, a stop loss clear above this resistance zone as well as the next previous high, and then a take profit at 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. So if it bounces there, I will make $50,000. That's a relatively low risk trade given the risk tolerance, given the context, given the fact that it's a major resistance zone. However, if we do come up a little bit further and the price goes into drawdown up to this zone, that'll be halfway to the stop loss, which would be for 50K. And that would mean this open trade would be in $25,000 drawdown. What I can do is I can enter another trade right here, and then I can risk 25K on that trade. So if I enter another sell right here at this zone and risk 25K on it, it would look something like this, right? Another sell, stop loss above, 25K risk, but I can have a profit target down here, which would give me way over a 1-to-2 risk to reward ratio. Realistically, I probably wouldn't even hold that long. But in that case, my 25K that I risk on this trade could be well over a 50K profit. And that would mean that if the original trade hits profit target and this one is the profit target for way over a 1-to-2 risk reward ratio, I can make upwards of $100,000 on this trade if that setup happens without getting stopped out. And then if they stop out and both of them go into drawdown and hit the stops, I will lose 50K on this first trade. I will lose 25K on this next trade. And before some swaps and commissions, which will probably be a couple $1,000s, I might lose around 75K in total. I can live with that, especially given the fact that I could stand to make 120 to 130K on that outcome max if both trades work out. And this is a trade that I think is pretty likely to work out because it's a pretty major super clear resistance zone. Again, you can never predict which way price is going to go, and that's okay. We're not trying to predict which way it's going. We're just trying to participate in trading opportunities with relatively low risk that we know we have the likelihood of making a little bit more than we lose. And that is why support resistance is such a great way to trade, because it allows you to control risk in a beautiful, sexy way. So we're going to go here to USD Canadian dollar. We're here on the weekly chart. We'll flip down to the daily. I don't see much on this right now. We could come here and bounce at this support zone it just recently broke above and tested, or we could continue up into here into this resistance zone and then bounce right there. My money personally is on waiting for the resistance zone. That's why it's the only place I have an alert at. If price comes up here into this resistance zone, you can see my alert right there at 1.39176, looks like. And if price goes up there, I'll be entering a sell. I'll put a stop above the zone and above all these recent highs, and then I'll put a target at 1-to-1 risk-reward ratio. It's a great trading opportunity from a risk structure perspective, and I hope it sets up. Perhaps it will set up this week if we can get a quick, aggressive run up over the next few days. Euro AUD, this is a very nice one. If price can come down into this support zone, I will be looking to buy. So let's go to the weekly chart to contextualize it just a little bit more. When you look back here in the past, we have a nice bounce here, 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 and also if we go further left on the chart, we have price come into this general region and have quick bounces away from it. I'm using this area here just because it's a little bit more recent, it's a little bit more relevant. So price had nice bounces here multiple times when we come back into here. We're not trying to be heroes. All we're trying to do is just capture a little bit of a tug away from this zone. So if we can be very patient, wait for an entry there, we can risk high dollar amounts at that area. And then if price breaks below, we try to get out a little bit early. We lose a little bit. Worst case scenario, it hits the stop loss. And of course, we've set up whatever risk we want for that stop loss. For me, this will be maybe $50,000 to $75,000 of risk. And then if it bounces right there, then we make a profit, which for me would be about 1-to-1. So whatever it is I risk on it, I could probably pull that out and profit if it wins. I think Euro AUD is a great trading opportunity. I really hope it sets up this week. However, I don't have my hopes up because it would take a pretty quick move for the for the euro to come all the way down here and then potentially bounce. Euro JPY, this is another pretty good one overall, very similar to CHF JPY, but I think CHF JPY is a little bit nicer. If we can get up here into this resistance zone, I will look to sell around these highs. And then in addition to that, I'll have a stop loss above this zone and above these recent highs. So that way, if it comes all the way up here to these previous extreme highs, it still gives us a chance to add to the trade to get another entry and potentially make even more money if it ends up bouncing from that resistance zone instead of this first resistance zone. So we will see what happens. I will share my analysis here in Telegram, as it sets up. So just pay attention in here. If you're not in there, remember, you could be in there in the next 5 to 10 seconds. It's free. You click the link in the description or the pinned comment of this video. It takes you straight there. You can follow all my trades and analysis, and it's completely for free. I've been doing it for the past 8 years that I've been profitably trading since the summer of 2018. So that's Euro JPY. GBP JPY is a very similar setup to EJ and CHF JPY. Very similar. If it comes here into this resistance zone, I'll be looking to sell. We got this high pretty far away from this region, so I'll probably just set a stop loss above this resistance zone, risk a little bit less on it, maybe like only 50K with no intention of adding, and it either works or it doesn't. That'll give a pretty good risk structure and allow for a pretty good short trade duration, relatively speaking, if it bounces. Next one is NZD JPY. I do have an alert up here at this resistance zone, though I don't think I'm going to be trading this. I'm going to go ahead and take off all of this right here. I'm going to reference just this most extreme previous daily high. I think that there's better trading opportunities on JPY pairs right now, such as CHF JPY, Euro JPY, and GBP JPY, that I'm not super excited about trading NZD JPY. I'll just be waiting. So I don't really see anything on this. I'm going to drag it to the naughty list here at the bottom. GBP CAD. This was a very nice trade where I made $150,000 on it. It was either last week or maybe the week before. I think it was last week. Closed $150,000 on this, and at the same time I had that GBP AUD trade that also bounced at the support zone. I made another 50K. I made $209,000 in a day on both of these trading opportunities. And again, everything is documented live. All my exact trades are shared here in the Discord server. And you can see that these ones all here, GBP CAD and GBP AUD, I had 3 total entries on that GBP CAD trading opportunity, 150K plus GBP AUD 56. So this was a total of about $209,000 I made just on these setups. The account got to almost 800K, and then we lost those little small losses on AUD USD, which ended up putting the account down to now 763K. That's why I'm profitable. Whenever I lose like this, right? I lose 30K, 50K usually. Sometimes it's a little more, because I don't get to close every single trade early, but most of them I do. But if I'm losing 30K or 50K when I'm wrong, but I'm making like 200K or 100K when I'm right, all the stats work themselves out. So that is something I'll be waiting for this week as we come into this week on GBP CAD. Sorry, I don't really see anything. I was explaining the previous one of that buy there because I thought it was important, but I don't really see anything this week. Next, we got CAD JPY. I don't see anything here. Euro USD, I see nothing. We're floating around our range. USD CHF, for me, I see nothing. USD JPY, I've got alerts way above and way below at these next major zones, but for now, I see nothing. Euro CAD, I see nothing. GBP NZD, I see nothing. NZD USD, I see nothing. AUD JPY, I see nothing for now. So that is the analysis for this week. Hopefully we will make a little bit of money this week, and I will see you guys in Telegram as I share my analysis. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you hit the like button on the video, thank you. See you in the next one.